Hallelujah, hallelujah. Yahuah is so good, Barak Yahuah. How you doing, brothers and sisters? Yahuah is good all the time, and I give him the praise and glory and the honor. I gotta talk to you today. We're gonna talk about something that's very serious. Well, of course, the word of Yahuah, all of his word is serious, right? But the Ruach has been on me to share this word, and it's titled, "What Happens When Yahuah Leaves a Person?" Whether you believe it or not, Yahuah has a cutoff point. He has a point where he will walk away from a person and absolutely cut a person off. He will do that. Why will he do that? But when a person's continually walking in sin, when a person is continually rejecting his word, when a person continually blasphemes the Ruach HaKodesh, meaning they show absolute disrespect to the Ruach, they don't want to listen, Yahuah will walk away. Yahuah will literally say, he's done with that person. It's just like us, we do it. You're dealing with co-workers or family members or friends, and you get to a point where they continually do you wrong. You forgiving them, you move on, you accept them back in your life, and then they do the same thing. It's a repeated cycle over and over again. You just get to a point, you realize that person will never change, and you don't want nothing to do with said person. I myself have had to do that. And I don't feel bad about it, because when I realize that person is going to continue to be who they are, that person is going to continue to be evil and malicious and aggressive and mean and rude and all that stuff. And I got to a point, I'm like, you know what? I'm done. I've had to do that to my own mother. And I know people may be like, but that's your mom. But if you knew the type of stuff that happened, then you'd be like, okay, I can understand that. And it's not to say that I don't love my mother, but I value my peace. You know what I'm saying? I value having a sound mind. And I don't feel bad about cutting her off or cutting off my brother, my sister, and people that I've been close with before. I have no problem, because it gets to a point, people will, continue to be who they are. You can tell people all day long that what they've done is wrong, and people sometimes don't even apologize for what they've done. They make it seem like you were the one in the wrong. But again, Yahuah deals with us the same way. He has a cutoff point. He has a point where he closes the door and he turns away, and he turns his face away from people. What a judgment. But when a person is continual rebellion against him, what do you expect for him to do, right? So let's talk about this. What happens when Yahuah leaves a person? And I'm going to start from the book of Shoftim, or the book of Judges. And I'm going to start at verse 19. And this is talking about Shimson and when he was with the harlot Delilah. Verse 19 says this: "And she made him sleep upon her knees, and she called for a man, and she caused him to shave off the 7 locks of his head. And she began to afflict him, and his strength went from him. And she said, The Pelishtim be upon you, Shimson. And he awoke out of his sleep, and he said, I will go out as at other times before, and shake myself. And he knew not that Yahuah was departed from him." There are so many people who are like that today. When Yahuah has departed and they don't even know it, they still go out, they preach, they still do videos saying that they received the word from the Most High. They still sing and dance and clap and shout. They still pray. They still do all types of things that they claim that they're doing in the name of Yahuah, and they have no idea that Yahuah has left them. What a tragedy. And it's actually so dangerous, because there can be people out there who would seem like they're so real, so anointed, so powerful, but yet Yahuah has walked away from them. And this is why, as I mentioned in the last video I did, the importance of having the Ruach HaKodesh. Because without the Ruach HaKodesh, there is no way you can determine what's real, what's fake, what's authentic, what's not. That's why we have to test everything. Even right now, anyone that watches any of the videos I do, you have to test me. Test me. I have no problem with that. That is scripture. Test me to see if I am walking in the Ruach HaKodesh, if I'm speaking under the power and the authority of the Ruach HaKodesh. Test it. Please do. Test everything that you hear, that people say. You have to, because there are people out there right now who seems like they full of life on the outside, but inside they are dead. Yahuah is not there. He has departed from them. The Ruach HaKodesh is not leading them at all. But yet, they still are doing things as if Yahuah never left them. And man, what a dangerous place to be in for a person who is like that. And then look at the arrogance of Shimson. The fact that he said, listen, I'm gonna shake it off, man. I'm good. Ain't nothing happened. Don't even realize, right, that he's sleeping. He been afflicted in his sleep. He lost his strength, all his hair cut off, and he just waking up like, that's pride. You know what I'm saying? And there are a lot of people who are like that. They're so arrogant, so prideful, so spiritually, what's the word I'm looking for? Like just spiritually arrogant, that they feel like they are not exempt, that they don't have to go before Yahuah on a daily basis to make sure that they are walking right with him. And things like this happen. Yahuah leaves. They don't even know. They don't even know. But let's talk about a little more. So one of the things that happen when Yahuah leaves a person, they lose vision or discernment. Let's look at verse 21 in the same chapter. It said, but the Philistine took him and put out his eyes and brought him down to Gaza and bound him with fetters of brass. And he did grind in the prison house. Right there. They put out his eyes. That represents, like I said, represents losing your vision, losing your discernment. And let me tell you something, one of the things that a person must have when they have the Ruach HaKodesh, you got to have discernment. The moment Yahuah walks away from a person, that's one of the first things that go. You lose absolute vision. You can't see nothing. So you can't identify anything. And man, let me tell you how dangerous it is to do anything without the guiding and the leading of the Ruach HaKodesh. My goodness. My goodness. And people, we really think they are walking right and have no discernment. And when you have no discernment, you open up yourself to so much demonic activity. It is crazy. And how many people out there who are walking with no vision? When they say the blind leading the blind, just because someone uses the name of Yahuah, and just because they have, some knowledge of this, does not mean that they're walking in one with him. So when a person loses discernment, there's no way they can walk hand in hand with Yahuah, because he's gone. He left them. You can't. How can two walk together unless they are in agreement? It's impossible. It's just like a husband and a wife. And I like to use marriage when referring to Yahuah because it's like so intertwined. But it's just like in the marriage, a man and a woman. A man could be putting his wife through so much and vice versa to the point where he or she has checked out. And the other person, the counterpart, don't even realize that person has departed. They may have not left the house, but mentally, emotionally, they're checked out. And there are people who be sleeping right next to their mate and don't even know that the person has departed from them on an intimate, emotional, mental, spiritual level. A person that's checked out. Marriages like that don't end well. I've seen with my own eyes. They end sometimes pretty violent, pretty aggressive. So, and then, you know, a wife or husband sleeping next to each other and can't even discern that that person is checked out. You know what I'm saying? So, man, we got to be on our P's and Q's when it comes to Yahuah. You see, what made this so dangerous for Shimshon, he had no business going in that house anyway of a harlot. And that's like us. There are some people we have no business being around. There's some people we have no business talking to. There's some people we have no business coming in communion with. Right? You can't sit at the table of Yahuah and sit at the table with demons. There's just no mixture. Right? You can't do that. And this is what Shimshon did. See, he was playing with fire and he ended up getting caught in his sin, to the point he couldn't even see his arrogance and realize that all that had happened. See, when we don't carefully guard the anointing that Yahuah puts on us, and we don't carefully keep that zeal on the inside of us to live righteous for him, we can easily, no one is exempt from this happening to them. No one is exempt. And Yahuah goes to and fro. He watches each and every one of us to make sure that we are living according to his word. And if we don't, if we continue to rebel, this is what happens. So that's the one thing, you lose discernment. Another thing that can happen when Yahuah leaves a person, they can be open to demonic torment or demonic affliction. And so I'm going to read the book of Shemuel Rishon, which is 1 Samuel, chapter 16, verses 13 through 14. All right, here we go. So I'm going to start at verse 12. And this is talking about David when he, got anointed by the prophet Shemuel. And it said, he sent and brought him in. Now he was ruddy and withal of a beautiful countenance and goodly to look to. And Yahuah said, arise, anoint him, for this is he. Then Shemuel took the horn of oil and anointed him in the midst of his brethren. And the Ruach Yahuah came upon El David from that day forward. So Shemuel rose up and went to Ramah. But verse 14, the heartbreaker. It says, but the Ruach Yahuah departed from Shaul, and an evil Ruach from Yahuah troubled him. Now, this is not to say that Yahuah himself put the evil Ruach upon Shaul. What it's saying is he allowed the inevitable to happen to Shaul. Remember what happened previous to this with King Shaul. He rejected the word of Yahuah. He rebelled against Yahuah. He was given a command. He did not follow it out all the way. And so therefore, the kingdom was stripped from him. And because his continued rebellion, it got to a point where the Ruach Yahuah left. And so when one leaves, another one seeks the opportunity to come in. And this is what happened with Shaul. And if you read all throughout the story of Shaul, you'll see how he was jealous of David. He was envy. He walked in his flesh. He was always acting like a madman. There was a time, if you read about it, said he would prophesy to the point he stripped himself naked. That's a type of madman. Have you ever seen people who seem like they never have any peace in their life? They're always aggressive. Their only way to communicate is through, fighting, yelling, screaming. They're always mean. They're always on edge. People like that, you have to wonder what's really going on. Now I'll tell you, they're being afflicted by a demonic ruach, by a demonic being. And that being is being so violent. So when a person in the natural, the only way they can act is by lashing out. Because in the spiritual world, in the spiritual sense, that demonic being is whipping them. I remember one time I had a conversation with my mother before, and this was a few years ago, and she was being so aggressive for no reason. I mean, just yelling. I remember like seeing her face change, like her eyes turned black, her teeth were like getting like real sharp. I mean, she was just going in. I sat back. And I remember the Ruach literally showing me that it was a demon behind her, and he had a whip in his hand, and he would just whip her, and in return, that's what caused her to lash out, because the pain that she was in. See, people like that, they can't sleep. They have absolutely no peace in their life. They can't really kind of like just be around people. Like I said, they're always on edge. And I've seen people like this. I've seen it, and it's so sad. And you would think that they will at least come to a point where they be like, I'm sick of all this, and see what's going on. Why does it seem like they can't sleep? Why does it seem like they're always in torment? Why does it seem like they're always lashing out? Why does it seem they're so aggressive? Right here. Because they're being troubled by an evil Ruach. And so when Yahuah leaves, the inevitable happens. He will allow a troubling Ruach to mess with a person and afflict them. That is a type of judgment, and that is that is what's going on right now with a person that will happen for them in eternity when they're in eternal torment. You see what I'm saying? So, man, this is why, I say we have to be, this is a tight walk. Make no doubt about it. I'm not saying that it's like hard, but it is a narrow road. It is a narrow road that few find. And the few who do find it, they try to make sure that they are walking hand in hand with Yahuah, because they don't want to experience this type of judgment on their life. Who wants to go through a lifetime of being tormented by an evil Ruach? See, another thing, when Yahuah walks away from a person, they will always have war in their life. They will always have conflict. They will never have a time when they can just settle down and just breathe and just take a break. Everything will always be. Now, listen, I'm not saying that even those in Yahuah don't experience warfare. Yes, we do experience warfare. We do experience time where we have to battle. That we do experience time where Yahuah will allow the enemy to come against us. Read about Ayub. Read about Abraham. Read about Joseph. There are times that will come when we go through battles. But in the other stance, a person, when Yahuah walks away from him, will always have battles. They will never have a time of peace. And that things will always seem very conflicting, very difficult for them. And I'm going to read, and hope I'm saying it right. So it's Divrei Hayamin Shanai, which is 2 Chronicles 16:9. And this is talking about King Acah. Now, King Acah was a righteous man at one point. He did what was pleasing to Yahuah. But down the line, he got arrogant. He started doing things his way. And this is what happened to him. Chapter 16, verse 9. Okay. And it says, for the eyes, I'm going to start at verse 7. And at that time, Canaanite the seer came to Acah, king of Yehuda, and said to him, because you have relied on the king of Aram, and not relied on Yahuah Eloheka, therefore is the host of the king Aram escaped out of your hand. Were not the Cushim and the Levim a huge host, with very many chariots and horsemen? Yet because you did not rely on Yahuah, he delivered them into your hand. He said, yet because you did rely on Yahuah, he delivered them into your hand. For the eyes of Yahuah run to and fro throughout the whole earth, to show himself strong on behalf of them, whose heart is perfect toward him. Herein you have done foolishly, therefore from henceforth you shall have wars. Now here is a king who Yahuah had delivered them from strong enemies. Because he relied on Yahuah. He trusted in the word of Yahuah. He trusted in the power and the ability of Yahuah. But he got to a point where he no longer relied on Yahuah, and he relied on the arm of his flesh. Curses the man that relies on the arm of his flesh and who does not lean on Yahuah. You fall into a curse. You fall into judgment. You fall into this right here happening. It said, from henceforth you shall have wars. From that day, that moment, that prophetic word was speaking to Acre, he had wars the rest of his life. From that point forward. Who wants that? Who wants to have a continual lifestyle of torment, war, conflict, things never going right? Like, that is insane. But yet this happened to him because of what he did. He acted foolishly. But check this out. Something happened to him even worse. I'm going to skip down to verse 12. It says, Aka, in the 39th year of his reign, was diseased in his feet, until his disease was exceeding great. Yet in his disease he sought not to Yahuah, but to the physicians. Listen, there's nothing wrong with doctors. I'm not speaking down on doctors. That's not what, I'm trying to say on this point here. But what happened is, instead of him going to Yahuah and believing for healing and praying to Yahuah and repenting, he still didn't seek Yahuah. Had a disease so great, but relied on physicians. And see, that's what happened when a person leaves Yahuah. They no longer rely on, they no longer seek him. They rely on themselves, or they rely on other people. Tell you, man. Another thing that happens when Yahuah leaves a person, there is no open communication with Yahuah. He shuts down any access that anyone would try to have to communicate with him. Everything is closed down. He completely closes his door shut and seals it. He will not speak to a person once he leaves them, once he walks away from them. Now, it might sound cruel, but it's really not. It's really not. I tell you what, would you continue to deal with a person who always, let's like, for those of us who are parents, would you continue to deal with your children when they continue to be rebellious, disrespectful? Those of you who have adult children, do you get to a point, or have you gotten to a point where you're like, you know what? I'm done with them. They can do their own thing. I'm done trying to help them. I'm done trying to pour out wisdom. I'm done trying to give them this and that. It's finished. I want nothing to do with them. And yes, it hurts, but at the same time, it has to be done. Don't think for a minute that it doesn't grieve Yahuah when he walks away from a person, because he loves us so much. But yet, he will not deal with sin. He will not wink at disobedience. He will not do it. He has no respect to persons. So back to Shemuel Rishon 28:6. All right, here we go. It says, I'm going to start at verse 5. And when Shaul saw the host of the Philistines, he was afraid, and his heart greatly trembled. And when Shaul inquired of Yahuah, Yahuah answered him not, neither by dreams, nor by Urim, nor by prophets. My goodness. Now here it is. See, I should have added that too. When Yahuah walks away from a person, they're continuing in the fear of man. Because why? Because the strength of Yahuah is not there. The confidence of Yahuah is not there. See, when a person is walking with Yahuah, there's an absolute confidence, there's an absolute assurity that they know Yahuah got them, and they fear no man, they fear no demon, they fear nothing on this earth, because they know who is on their side. They know who is walking with them. But when Yahuah leaves a person, I can tell you right now that a person will always walk in fear, because the Ruach HaKodesh is gone. They have no power, no strength to go against their enemies. And so there will be a constant fear of man when Yahuah walks away from a person. And then, like I said, there's no open communication. Right there, Yahuah didn't answer him. I gotta tell you, man, that right there, out of all that I read, but that right there really, really gets to me the most. Because how can a person live when they don't have no communication with Yahuah? That right there, I tell you, if Yahuah didn't speak to me, I wouldn't want to live anymore. If Yahuah didn't give me dreams, or if he didn't show me things through his word, you know what I'm saying? If there was no tugging of the Ruach HaKodesh, there is no point of living. This right here is so tragic. Because when Yahuah is not talking with a person, believe me, something else is. Which brings me to my next one. When Yahuah walks away from a person, they are open to demonic influence. Because right here, when I go down to verse 7, it says, Then Shaul said unto his servants, Seek me a woman that has a familiar spirit. Now, if you go back into, the Torah, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, and Genesis, but especially in Exodus, I believe, even in Deuteronomy, it talks about the abomination in Yahuwah's eyes when someone seeks the counsel of a medium, or someone seeks the counsel of someone who has a familiar spirit, or when someone is sitting in the counsel of a witch or a wizard. It's an abominable, it's disgusting in the eyes of Yahuah. And people who do that make themselves so unclean. And right here, he did one of the most damnable things he can ever do. It says in verse, let me keep going. Behold, there is a woman that has a familiar spirit at Endor. And Shaul disguised himself and put on other raiment, and he went, and 2 men with him, and they came to the woman by night. And he said, I pray you, divine unto me by the familiar spirit, and bring me him up, whom I shall name unto you. Now you know what's about to happen here is necromancy, because he's calling forth this woman to bring up a person who died. Okay? Now, anyone who claims that they saw their dead mother or dead father or dead grandmother, etc., that is a demonic spirit disguising itself as that person. And when you communicate with them, it's necromancy. It's talking with the dead. That's why if something like that comes, start speaking to you, rebuke it right away. Rebuke it. Don't play with that. But Shaul played with that. See, again, he opened himself up to demonic influence. And check this out, verse 10. And Shaul swore 7 oaths to her by Yahuah, saying, As Yahuah lives, there shall no punishment happen to you for this thing. Then said the woman, Whom shall I bring up to you? And he said, Bring me up Shemuel. Man. Now in verse 9, the woman even admitted to him that Shaul had sent out a decree that all wizards, all people who seek familiar spirits, must be put out the land. And yet he contradicts himself by going to a woman who has a familiar spirit, opening himself up to her demonic counsel. See, when Yahuah walks away from a person is subject to this. Again, that's why I said you got to be careful who you listen to. Just because they say the name Yahuah don't mean that they walking with him. And there are people on YouTube, Facebook, there are people who actually get counsel from familiar spirits. Satan knows the word. You know what I'm saying? And Satan does speak to people. And Satan does give people, false signs and wonders and false dreams. Satan does influence people. When you don't have the Ruach HaKodesh, when Yahuah walks away, you get opened up to that. Another thing that happens when Yahuah walks away from a person, they get given over to a reprobate mind. In Romans 1:28, it talks about that. So when a person has a reprobate mind, it means they're depraved, unprincipled. They walk in wickedness, foolish. They have a mind without Yahuah. They walk in deception. They walk in sexual impurity. Their mind is never right. But we know one of the things when Yahuah walking with us, he gives us a sound mind, right? He gives us peace. He gives us love, right? And it's something that my wife says all the time. I love it when she says it. She said, anyone that comes in my life to disturb my peace, to try to disturb my peace, they're bothering with my sound mind. She said, the moment someone does that, she cuts them off. And I love the fact that she does that, because she values her peace. She values having a sound mind. And she is not going to let anybody come in and interfere with that. See, when you have gone through so much in life, and you get to a point where you've tasted the goodness of Yahuah, and you felt his genuine love, and you felt this compassion, and you felt the realness of his Ruach upon you, and then someone tries to come in and mess that up, try to take your peace. No. And that's how my wife is. And I love her for that. And, I've become to be the same way, because it's like, no. Like, I'm not going to let myself be put in a position where Yahuah walks away from me. You know what I'm saying? Because one of the things that I value that Yahuah gives is a sound mind. I don't want to be walking around with a mind that ain't sound. I don't want to be walking around unprincipled. You see what I'm saying? So when Yahuah walks away from a person and they have a reprobate mind, then they are no longer governed by the Ruach HaKodesh, and they begin to be governed by sin and become obedient to their sin. The flesh becomes their master. The Ruach HaKodesh is no longer the master. The Ruach HaKodesh is no longer the lead, the guide. Their flesh becomes their lead. And whatever they think in their debased mind, they go by it. See, and this is why in Tehillim 51:11, David says, cast me not away from your presence, and take not your Ruach HaKodesh from me. This is why he prayed that prayer so eagerly, because he saw what happened to King Shaul, and he did not want that judgment to come upon him when he sinned. That's why he immediately came to a place where like, Yahuah, don't leave me. Yahuah, don't cast me out of your presence. Yahuah, please, no, I'm sorry for what I've done. And I can tell you, I've done the same thing. When I know that I've messed up and done wrong against Yahuah, I don't sit upon that. No, immediately I'm like, Yahuah, like, please forgive me. I'm sorry for what I did. Don't take it away from me. Please remain with me. I'm sorry. But the last thing I want to happen is for you to walk away from me. The last thing I want to happen is to lose my relationship with you. The last thing I want to happen is to lose connection with you. What happened to Adam in the garden when they sinned, when they fell? See, Yahuah didn't go to his wife. He went to him. He said, where are you? He said that because the moment he sinned, the connection broke. The chain broke. And when you really love Yahuah and you really desire to please him, the last thing you want to happen is for him to walk away from you. That's the last thing you want to happen. You don't want him to go and be like, where are you? I'm not connected to you. Where's your hand? Your hand is not holding mine anymore. Oh my goodness. Oh, sorry, y'all. it kind of like just makes my heart, because the love that Yahuah has for us, and forgive me for being so passionate about this, but I know this is probably not going to be a popular video, and it's cool, but when it comes to having a pure relationship with Yahuah and having intimacy with him, you have to value that connection. See, Shaul didn't value that, and he was anointed at one point. Even David said over and over, he said he would not lay his hand upon Yahuah's anointed. Shimson was anointed, and yet Yahuah walked away from them. So I'm telling you, man, you want to talk about ultimate judgment? And then when you die in your sin, when a person dies in their sin, and they're at the throne of judgment, and they face him, and they hear, "Depart from me," and they be cast into outer darkness where there is weeping and gnashing of teeth. The ultimate penalty, to be away from the presence of Yahuah forever in outer darkness. My goodness. So I end this video to say this: value the connection with Yahuah. Satan is a tempter, right? And he can care less what he uses to come against you, to try to cause you to mess up your relationship with Yahuah. He don't care. He does not care. And so you want to guard your eyes, your ears, your mind. Guard yourself accordingly, and be governed by the word of Yahuah, and be led by his Ruach HaKodesh. Value the relationship with him. Value your marriage with Yahuah. Value it, love it, cherish it, honor it, keep it, hold tight to it, whatever you got to do, but don't let him go. Don't allow yourself to be in a position where Yahuah could potentially walk away from you. There is nothing in the world that it's just not worth it. There's nothing in the world that's more worthy than having a personal, one-on-one, intimate relationship with Yahuah. Because at the end, that's all that matters to begin with. And so keep that. Keep him close. Keep his word close, dear to your heart, so that you won't sin against him. Because when you live a lifestyle, when you live that's pleasing to him, when I tell you, favor will come not only from Yahuah, but you'll have a favor with man. And scripture clearly say, when a man's ways please Yahuah, even your enemies will be at peace with you. Even your enemies. He'll make your enemies your footstool. You know what I'm saying? And that's nothing to brag about, but that's something to just think about. There are benefits in that relationship with Yahuah. Not to say, you just want to be in a relationship with Yahuah because you want tangible things. No, it's just because he's still a good father. And he gives good gifts to his children. He desires to give good gifts to those that love him. When we honor him, when we hold him close, he will honor us. He will exalt us, right? He will grant us favor. And when we desire him, he will give us our heart desires. Yes, I know we still live on this earth, but trust me when I tell you, Yahuah does not want to withhold anything good from his people. You know what I'm saying? So value that relationship. Because like I said, in the end, that's what all that matters. To be one with him, to be united with him, to walk hand in hand with him, so that he won't leave. And you please him, and trust me, he will be pleased by you. When you draw nigh to him, he will draw nigh to you. That's what he wants. Relationship. Relationship. Treasure it. You know what they say? You don't realize what you have until it's gone. Remember that. Baruch Yahuah. All esteem to the Most High. Our Father in heaven. Y'all be blessed.